What you need in the building? How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? As the title says, we're going to discuss boxing. It's really fueled by your. It's going to be fueled by your comments. It's going to be fueled by what you want me to talk about. But I will talk about the upcoming fights in boxing. I'll maybe recap some of the fights that happened. But really, it's going to be fueled by what you want for me to talk to you about. So that's how we're going to do it, and so that's how we're going to pick it up. All right. So first of all, we can talk about the weekend fight that passed, which was Costa Zoo versus Tony Harrison. Um, that fight was an interesting fight in the sense that Tony Harrison felt that he was the more skilled fighter, but the more dominant fighter in that fight was actually Costa Zoo. And the reason that happened is because Costa Zoo was timing and countering Tony Harrison's jab. So Costa Zoo would counter the jab either by throwing, say, for example, a left hook, leaping left hook, or a left hook. He countered the jab by going over the top of the jab with the right hand. He himself threw jabs, not that much. He was sort of waiting for Tony Harrison to throw his jab so that he could counter it. So he was more counterpunching Tony Harrison. He's keeping it at a certain range where he could be within boxing distance. But pretty much what he was doing to Tony Harrison was he was countering him. All right, very sharp counters, and he was able to walk Tony Harrison down. He was able to push him back. Now, some people will say, "Well, where was Tony Harrison's footwork?" Well, the thing about it is, Costa Zoo, he's not slow on his feet. He's not a flat-footed fighter, and he is a good boxer. So, for example, now Tony Harrison said that Costa Zoo was basic and stuff like that, but that was not true at all. Costa Zoo is implementing certain techniques and skills that you would see in any really accomplished boxer. Even though he was pressuring Tony Harrison, he was applying smart pressure. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So Tony Harrison, for example, he would pop a jab, right? He pops his jab, right? Pops his jab out straight. Okay. Now when Tony pops that jab out, Costa Zoo would either slip to the outside of the jab. So if Tony threw his jab this way, Costa might slip to the outside of the jab and throw his right hand and counter him. Or he might slip to the inside of the jab, Tony's jab, and sorry, he slip to the inside of the jab and then throw his right hand over the top. Or he may slip to the outside of the jab. That's the correct thing. Sorry about that. He slipped to the outside. I'm a southpaw, so sometimes I think. He slipped to the outside of the jab, right? Parry, slap it down, come over the top. Or he might slip to the outside of the jab and then throw his hook, throw his hook, turn his hook over. So there were all these little tricks he was doing. He was also slipping and sliding a little bit, bobbing and weaving a little bit. Very precise movements. He wasn't wasting movement. Much more dynamic fighter than his dad, and his dad was had a certain stance, and he just stayed in that stance. But Tim Zook, he was using different, very specific movements. Yes, Tony popped him with the jab every now and then, but he had to get within range, and he would still kind of ride the punch, ride back on the punch, etc. But Tim was able to close that distance and get to the range he wanted to be at, and he was able to counter Tony Harrison throughout the night, and then he would ramp it up. Now Tony was doing some interesting things with his feet, but Tim Zoo was cutting him off, so he was cutting off the ring as well, pretty well. Tim was just very clinical in what he was doing. Yes, he was getting hit by Tony. Tony's a much more experienced fighter. Was doing a lot of things in there that gave Tim Zoo problems, but he kept his composure. Tim Zoo was a guy that keeps his composure. So all of these things came into play, which is why Tony couldn't get his rhythm at all in that fight, and he ended up getting stopped. Right, Tim Zoo was very strategically landing body shots, left hooks to the body. He was throwing some lead rights to the body. He was throwing his jabs to the body, long jabs to the body. So he was very selectively breaking Tony down to the body. Uh, uh, Tony got hurt in the ninth round, but here's the thing: he got hurt several times, and he actually got dropped once. So Tim Zoo did an excellent job, in my opinion, of dissecting and breaking down Tony Harrison. I I kind of hinted to people, I was hinting to people that y'all need to watch this kid. This kid's Tim Zoo. He ain't taking nothing for granted. It's a calculated decision on his part and his team. No matter what Tony Harrison's saying, Tim Zoo understands what he has in front of him. And it really went to show that. And Tony's an excellent boxer. He's an excellent boxer. And he's probably even a better trainer. Tony knew what Tim Zoo was doing to him. He just couldn't. He couldn't neutralize it. Okay. Um, and then when Tony realized his jab wasn't working anymore, and Tim Zoo was taking away his jab from him because Tim Zoo basically took away his jab, he started rumbling with Tim Zoo on the inside. And again, Tony Harrison is a very versatile fighter and fought pretty good on the inside, but that's Tim Zoo's territory as well. So Tim Zoo was able to really now land more punches and more combinations on Tony Harrison and wear down his body before he got him out of there. He threw like, what was it, 5, 6 uppercuts in a row, right uppercuts. He was using uppercuts. He was using various shots. It was very unique selection of shots that Tim Zoo was using. I think that's another thing about Tim Zoo. He knows how to approach a fighter. He knows how to break a fighter down. And he showed a lot more composure than the Tim Zoo we saw against his former opponent that was just before Tony Harrison. So kudos to Tim Zoo on that. He's building himself. He's solid. He's working his way into a shot now with Jermell Charlo. And if Jermell Charlo's hands heal up in time, I guess he's going to get that undisputed title shot with Jermell Charlo. Of course, I wouldn't mind seeing him face somebody else in the interim if Jermell Charlo can't face him immediately. But he showed his quality. Now no excuses. Nobody can say, well, he doesn't deserve the shot at undisputed, or he ain't faced nobody. He did face Tony Harrison, former world champion, guy that beat Jermell Charlo, and he beat him. Upcoming fights. So I'm gonna go through some of the upcoming fights again. You guys can chime in, talk, whatever you want to do. Uh, Gilberto Ramirez versus Gabriel Rosado. It's an up-and-coming fight on the zone with Golden Boy. Gabriel Rosado, this is going to be, of course, a light heavyweight fight, 175 pounds for those of you who don't know. Okay? The thing about this is, Gabe Rosado is not a 175 pounder. He just is not. Okay? He's most I've seen him perform at is 168. And while Gabe can punch his butt off, he's not a bona fide 175 pounder like Gilberto Ramirez. So I think this is a fight to help Gilberto Ramirez rebound. Gabriel Rosado is no easy task, but I just think he's too small. And I think Gilberto Ramirez will finally stop him in that fight. So that's an easy prediction for me to say for March 18th. I think this is just more of a showcase fight. Get Gilberto Ramirez on a rebound, but has a tough enough fighter that he can get some rounds in. So that's this coming weekend here. And the next weekend, that's my prediction for that. The next weekend, March the 25th, Lawrence Okolie, who is, I believe, the IBF cruiserweight champion, he will be facing David Light, who I believe is an upcoming fighter who wanted to fight with him. I think something like that. Of course, on this same weekend, so that's on the zone. On this same weekend, Jose Ramirez will be facing Richard Comey. Richard Comey has moved up to 140, for those who don't know. And so he'll be facing Jose Ramirez. I believe that will be on a top-ranked card. So, I expect that fight to go Jose Ramirez's way, not Richard Comey's way. Okay? With Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez, this is a good fight. This is the fight we want to see, right? This is a very good fight at 168. It's one of the top fights we want to see at 168. Besides Benavidez and Caleb Plant, we also have Demetrius Andrade at 168. Those are the big names at 168. Of course, Canelo is the other one. Canelo will be facing John Ryder, but that's not happening anytime in this period that I'm going to be talking about. But we have a really good matchup in Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez. Now, I think that Caleb Plant has the advantage. I think Caleb Plant probably will win this fight if he doesn't make any more mistakes. I think he has his learning experience against Canelo should have taught him to take a knee if you get hurt or you get dropped, right? He was, in my opinion, he was on his way to winning that fight against Canelo before he got dropped, which is a bit of a shock, but he did not know what to do after he got dropped. Okay, this is why he got stopped. But Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez is a slightly it's a much different fight from Caleb Plant versus Canelo, but also that experience and learning to keep your composure and keep on fighting, I think is what Caleb Plant will need to display in this fight with David Benavidez. I am tired for some reason. I've been working all day and everything, and it's kind of hot. So, and I usually fall asleep somewhere around now, so that's why I'm yawning. But Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez, good fight. It's a good fight. I just think that uh, Caleb Plant has more of the advantages because of his defensive style over David Benavidez. I've seen David Benavidez struggle with guys who are nowhere near the caliber fighter as a Caleb Plant, right? And those guys gave him rounds. Some guys were even tough guys. You know, I gave David Benavidez some rounds. You know what I mean? So if they could do that, I think Caleb Plant should be able to do it as well. So I picked Caleb Plant to beat David Benavidez if that fight ever comes about. On April the 1st, Anthony Joshua will be facing Jermaine Franklin. I don't know who Jermaine Franklin is, quite frankly. So I don't care about this fight, to be honest with you. Some people who follow Anthony Joshua, they will care about it. April the 8th, I'm not even going to give you a prediction on that because I don't care. April the 8th, Shakur Stevenson versus uh, Shuichiro Yoshino. This is going to happen in Newark, New Jersey. So Shakur will actually be fighting at home. This is a top ranked card. Um, what can I say about this? I'm not really impressed by this. I'm not really interested in this fight. But uh, I just hope that Shakur pulls it off as I expect. I expect Shakur to win. Okay. Same night, Jonathan Gonzalez will be facing Kenshiro Teraji. I believe that's not in the U.S. though. That's probably somewhere else. As well as Jesse Rodriguez will be facing Christian Gonzalez. None of these fights ring any bells. Nothing really exciting about these fights. These are just showcase fights, in my opinion. Murodjon Alec Damniev or MJ, he will be defending his unified titles against a guy named Marlon Tapales. Nobody gives a fuck about that either, right? So on April the 8th, there's really nothing really great out there. Shakur's going to be fighting. If you wanted to see the fighters fight, just to see what they do and how they perform, these are all showcase fights in my opinion. On April 22nd, this is where Gervonta Tank Davis will face Ryan Garcia. Everybody has a hoopla and buzz about it. Tickets being sold like crazy. Everything sold out actually. What the pay-per-view will be, we don't know. It's going to be a big fight, I'm sure. Oh my gosh, why are you yawning so much? Gosh, damn it, darn it, man. I think it's hot here. I haven't yawned this much. I just put on the camera and I'm starting to yawn. This is ridiculous. But anyway. April the 22nd, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. Just talked about that. April the 29th is a great fight. This is going to be a good one. It's going to be a barn burner, which will be Stanionis versus Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz versus Stanionis. That should be a good fight, man. That'll be a good scrap. It's going to be exciting. Lots of blows thrown and stuff like that. But the fight that I'm really looking forward to is on May 7th. On May 7th, Stephen Fulton will be facing Naoya Inoue. Naoya Inoue, arguably one of the top 10 pound for pound greatest fighters in the world right now. Yeah, I mean, he earned his stripes with that, with respect to that. Is he number one or number two? People say number one, number two. I don't agree. I don't think he's probably maybe top five. You know what I mean? But I don't think he's all that. But Fulton will be facing him. So this will be a good fight. It's going to be in Japan. It's May 7th. You got to tune into that. This is a good fight, I'm telling you. And then on May 13th, Rolly Romero will be facing Alberto Puello. Yeah, that's right. Rolly Romero, the guy that's tank stopped. He'll be going up to a super lightweight to face Alberto Puello for, I believe it is the WBA title. So right now, the titles at super welterweight are the IBF title is now held by what's the guy's name? The guy from Puerto Rico. Forgot his name. He won. He just recently won. Stopped the guy. They were fighting for that title. And you got Reggie Sprogay who got the WBC. You got Josh Taylor who got the WBO. And then now Rolly Romero will be fighting for the WBA against Alberto Puello. Okay, that's that's good. Good for Raleigh, man. He got himself in a position again to have a title shot. That's crazy. Unbelievable. But again, Mayweather Promotions, you know how it is. So we want to talk about a bunch of stuff. Interesting titles, interesting stuff. But those are the upcoming fights. I just wanted to read them off, get that out of the way. Of course, I wanted to mention also at cruiserweight, I would love to see Badu Jack face up against Lawrence Okoli. Lawrence Okoli is the IBF title champion. Badu Jack just won the WBC cruiserweight title. So I would love to see those two clash up. That would be a very exciting fight for me. Young versus old, veteran versus young guy. Young guy like to fight long. Older guy like to get close the distance and muscle you up. I'd love to see that. So out of all those fights I just mentioned, really the fights that really may get people excited are Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez. We still don't have a Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko date to let you guys know about, which is bullshit. I think, no, actually, there's a date, but the contract hasn't been signed. They ain't got no press conferences. We don't know where the venue is going to be. They're taking their royal ass time to get this fight going. A lot of other fights have been signed, sealed, and delivered, but not this fight, right? Which is kind of interesting. I believe Lomachenko is very trepidatious about taking this fight, man, the way how things are going. But anyway, let me go into some other stuff now. All right, let's talk some stuff. So first of all, if you're viewing here, know this is for you. This is your time. So if you want to ask any questions, ask questions, and let's just chop it up. Let's just discuss boxing, right? I'm 17 minutes in. I'm probably going to go till about maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes. We'll see. It depends. I've been busy today. I've been outside in the back doing a lot of farming, gardening, that kind of stuff. And then I came in here. I started doing some baking and stuff. So I'm kind of tired, but nonetheless, this is my break time. This is the time when I can actually talk with you guys. Let's make it a fun one. You can talk about anything, whatever you want to talk about. All right. Bernard Hopkins came out and said, for example, with the Tank versus Ryan Garcia event that's happening, he came out and said, "What the hell is Leonard Ellaby doing up in up here? Why are they welcoming in Leonard Ellaby? See, that's when you don't know what's really going on, right? Mayweather Promotions may be a company, but y'all gotta understand, and you really don't understand. They don't have to be called Mayweather Promotions to be backing a fighter. They don't have to be. In fact, Tank's gonna be training in Mayweather Promotions, right? Showing there's no rift between him and Floyd. It's just that Tank became his own boss, and Floyd Mayweather